Hi, this is James Gordon Octoy here with the first book review in the Dark Tower series. Today's book I'm reviewing today, The Gunslinger, the first book in the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. This is the illustrated version. This is from Plum Books, and this is from 1982. I also have a paperback edition which has some illustration, which is also from 82, but this I did not enjoy. I was kind of really let down with this book. I was going to the same thinking this was going to be this interesting adventure, like Western Bizarro, like fantasy story, and I really did not like this at all. Uh, I was most of the time I was reading this, I was just bored with it. I was really bored with it. It felt dry. I didn't really like the plot. The characters were not really likable, and I was bored the whole time reading this. I'm like, this is not off to a good start at all. This is actually the shortest book in the series. This is like what 200 and like 12 pages or something. So this is the shortest one. And the following four books are all thick. They're bricks, so I'm going to read as much as I can to get through this series because I do not want this to take too long at all if I am not liking it. But um, what I was doing when I finished reading this book and I was doing some research on it, apparently Stephen King felt that his original version was dry and not really good, so he did like a he did a remake of it, or not remake. He updated the story in 2003 and said he improved on this, like did like improvements, make it more easier to understand because this book is quite hard to understand a lot of parts what's going on in it, and but he made a lot of changes to it, so I'm not sure if I want to check out that updated version on unless it's if it's better than this or not. So I am hoping this series will get better because this first book didn't. It has been a rough start to this series. So all right, on to the book review. Plot: Roland Gilead, known as the Gunslinger, is after the Man in Black. Also goes by the name of Walter. He has followed the Man in Black for 2 weeks across the blazing desert and refuses to quit despite his enemy is always a step ahead of him. Roland reaches a barn owned by its widowed owner, Brown, and his talking raven, Zotan. While eating corn and beans, Brown reveals the Man in Black had spent the night there but didn't state where he was going. Roland tells Brown he is after him and recounts his events at Toole, a small town he was staying where the Man in Black brought a wife's deceased husband back to life, then had sex with her, then spreads his evil influence on its residents. Just as Roland is about to leave, the local church priest turns its residents against the gunslinger, forcing Roland to kill everyone in a bloody shootout. After spending a night at Brown's barn, he leaves and travels on foot and pays Brown for his service with his mule, died of old age, and reaches an abandoned way station. Roland nearly dies from thirst but is saved by a boy, Jake Chambers. Roland awakens as Jake brought him food and water. Jake explains he is unsure how he got here and hasn't left the way station since he doesn't know where to go and is scared of the unknown. Roland hypnotizes Jake to recount his events and learns Jake came from New York City and was on his way to school when the Man in Black pushed him in front of an oncoming car and was ran over. Roland shakes his head and learns there are parallel universes. After awaking Jake, he does not want to remember his past and allows the boy to rest. The two search the cellar below and find food and water. However, Roland encounters a demon and orders it to leave. As he checks the hole where the demon came from, he finds a jawbone and takes it. Roland and Jake leave the way station going towards the mountains. Everything seems to be going well until the two find a hating corpse with a flock of ravens flying around it. Together they enter the town of Gallows Hill, Roland's hometown, where he and Jake rest, eat food, and pack up to continue the quest of finding the Man in Black, and Roland knows where to find him, the Dark Tower. Together they travel a strange and dangerous land that seems to be changing around them. What awaits the gunslinger when he finds the Man in Black and the Dark Tower? Gunslinger was one of the strangest yet most boring stories I've ever read. At times, it could get difficult just trying to understand what's going on, as King doesn't do a good job explaining the world of the Gunslinger. The worst is when he stops telling the story and just adds a random scene of Roland talking to other characters, then goes back to telling the story. I wasn't sure if these scenes were flashbacks or were happening as the two characters were traveling within the story. Not a lot happens with not a lot happens with the story, as it felt dry at times. The characters weren't interesting or well fleshed out. The main character role in The Gunslinger felt so flat and unlikable to the point where he goes from being an anti-hero and villain. Didn't like the Men in Black as he doesn't put up a fight or challenge for Roland. The rest of the characters we come to know in the story didn't care for them. Difficult plot to understand and not really anything else I liked about this story. And what was the purpose of the Man in Black trying to do to Roland? I didn't get what he was trying to do or what his plan was. It's never explained. I also wish King came up with a better intro for the story than just throwing us into a random scene of the Gunslinger following the Man in Black across the desert. As I said before, I couldn't figure out at times what the hell is going on, where the characters were going or doing, as I felt King was just trying to make this story too strange and weird and less focusing on the plot. Best way I can describe this story is like taking LSD and watching a Western movie. That's what this felt like. I have heard that Stephen King did rewrite this novel, trying to update and fix the many issues I had with it, but also changed a lot around with the story. Not sure if the updated version is better or worse. Overall, I don't recommend The Gunslinger. I don't think a lot of people would like it or get it. It just feels like King had a lot of ideas, but no thought went into the plot of the story at all. I sure hope the other Dark Tower novels get better in the series. And that's our review today. This one is just another short yet simple one because there's not really much else to talk about with this story. Oh my goodness. I could not believe how bored I was reading this. I was like, this is one of the most boringest stories I have ever read by King. Like, I thought, okay, he has an interesting idea, and okay, it's got an interesting character, the gunslinger, and the Man in Black seems to be like this really powerful sorcerer that can do stuff, and like he's got some interesting ideas, but he doesn't focus enough on that. He just keeps throwing all this weird other ideas and things that are not well executed and don't really make a lot of sense. And I was just like, what the hell is going on with this story? I really didn't like it, and one of the biggest disappointments was reading this was, okay, look at this cover. You got this cover of the gunslinger, Roland, and with him is like a crow or raven as his companion, right? And then the very first illustration, which is also in the paperback, you see this. So I'm thinking to myself, oh, the gunslinger's got like a bird companion, like a sidekick, right? And that's not in the story at all. He doesn't have a bird as a companion. He's just got a mule that's only with him for the first few minutes. The poor thing, he's been trekking along the desert and finally dies of old age. And the raven belongs to this farmer character, and it talks, and that's it. I'm like, what? The Gunslinger doesn't have this bird companion like I've seen on the covers. It's just him and the mule. Seriously, that was a huge letdown because I expected this character to have like a bird companion that helps him out. That's not in the story. Um, when I was reading this story, it just felt like it's like the character was in a sandbox. Basically, there's nothing in this world. It's just open sand. Then there's like one thing placed here, and then after you reach that place, it goes over to another direction. There's another thing, but again, it's all this like open desert. There's nothing, and then when he gets to the mountains, and then the whole story feels like it's in a sandbox. There's nothing interesting. It's just one little thing placed in the middle of it. Then there's something placed further away, and the rest is this emptiness. There's nothing. So there's nothing really interesting. I was expecting, a little more like Western themes. There's hardly any of that, and there's not much I really liked about this story. There's nothing really else interesting. Like there's the one part where it does feel like one part Western where he's in that town, and oh my goodness, the way that King describes this town and what the characters do is just awful. Like the sex scene was actually was the most cringy part of the story. Just the way he wrote it, it's like, oh my goodness. oh, instead of what is it, lovemaking, which I really hate that term. He just does it in a very like a similar cringy way, and the way he describes it, like, oh my goodness, this is just painful to read. I am not enjoying this. I was expecting this to be action packed. I was just wanting this to be like an interesting adventure story, and I really didn't get that. Um, and I didn't like any of the characters. Roland, I felt could be like he could be like anti-hero in some parts, and others he's just like kind of like a villain. And then the Man in Black is like this like I really didn't care for this character. He doesn't really explain what he's doing or what he's trying to accomplish. He's just like some powerful figure doesn't even know himself what's even going on. It's like this is just a clueless villain. I don't like this character at all. I don't like anyone. In the ending, I was like left scratching my head. It's like, what the hell did I just read? I really didn't get it at all. So I am really hoping this series does get better because this first book was not off to a good start at all. I just did not like it. Uh, it's not one of King's worst stories. It's definitely I'll put it lower. His books that I don't like, but this I just enjoy it. I find while it's it's not terrible, but it's just so boring. Um, yeah, okay, so that's a review today. Hope you enjoyed it. And for the next book in the Dark Tower series, a drawing of 3. I really am hoping the series gets better, but as you can see, all the later books get thick, like really thick, and I'm glad I'm only doing 5 because I could imagine if I was doing all 8, that would take even longer to get through. So I am hoping this series does get better. And I know this is a beloved series by many King fans, and we can't like everything. So maybe I'll like one of the later books. I'm hoping because this there's a band I like a German power metal band called Blind Guardian, and they did a song about the Dark Tower, and I think they did a few others, and they're really good songs. And so I'm hoping this series does get better. I hope, but hey, as I said before, we can't like everything, so if I end up not liking this series, oh well, that's just me. Alright, if you enjoyed this review, please like it, share it, and don't forget to subscribe to Octara Library, the YouTube channel, and the Facebook group of the same name. Please support your review of fiction. Until then, I'll catch you later.